All right, what's going on, everyone? This is the inaugural episode of Provoking Conversations, episode numero uno. I'm joined here to my left with my co-host, one of my dear friends, one of the guys I'm the closest to, if not the closest to. I see him as my brother and my life companion, my life wanderer with, or I don't know, whatever. But yeah, we do a lot of really deep talks, and we explore a lot of really cool topics that we just thought, would be cool to share with the people. So, we kind of joined up, and here we are. So I'll let him introduce himself a little bit.
Yo, what's up? I appreciate that introduction. I thought it was kind of funny how you said life companions. I was like, damn, we got that bromance going on, bro. I like
It's
it.
true.
I like it.
People know
Yeah,
us. They know
absolutely.
that's true.
Yeah, the Y and I, bro.
Mm-hmm.
That was literally on the dashboard of my car for like 3 years.
Sad
Anyways,
it's not there anymore.
yeah, dude, it's big sad. I don't even have the car anymore, so it doesn't even matter. But I do appreciate uh, whoever comes in and watches this episode. Thank you for watching. Really here just to really, I guess, grow my learning is the biggest part, and just truly dive into some conversations that I feel really don't get talked about, at least not in like my circle, And so I really enjoy having these deep conversations. I think they're really fun, and so yeah, let's see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. We always feel so at ease when we talk with each other, and we feel like we get a lot from each other. I feel like I learn something new, or at least think about new concepts every time I talk to Yaid. So we wanted to share that with people and let people experience that as well. So we want you to feel at ease. Grab yourself a drink, cup of coffee, a water, some tea. Your beverage of choice, whatever that may be. And sit back, feel like you're at the campfire on their starry night, ready for a good conversation, and we'll see how long we're here for. Today's episode, we thought, what better way to start than by exploring how do you learn about yourself? I mean, I feel like that's a big theme that we're gonna go over through all of our talks. So, might as well start right at the beginning. So I'll let Yair take it away first. See kind of how he interpreted that question, and see what he's got. He was really
All right,
excited
man.
about this. So we actually started. We're supposed to start our recording earlier, but due to technical difficulties, we actually started later.
It's all good. It's all good. Things we had to work through. Dude, this topic, man, it's loaded. It
Oh, yeah.
really is. And for me especially, dude, like the questions that I've been really considering have been very intriguing to me. And I think this question brings up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so what it means for me to really kind of learn about myself is like, if you didn't grow up in an environment like I can really just speak for myself, where my dad was always working, and my mom was always busy cleaning and cooking and doing all the things that need to be done around the house. So in a way, I felt like I kind of grew up very just kind of isolated. Like I would play with kids, I would do all these things, but my parents weren't really like super involved in my life. They were just like, oh, he's doing kid stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Or they'd be like, okay, here, do this grown-up thing of like taking out the trash or doing this, clean up your room or put some clothes on. You're always walking around in your underwear, you know what I mean? Just the casual stuff.
Yep.
And so I felt like I didn't really get a chance to have like, I don't know, I guess trying to imagine like a parent that would, help their kid figure out what they're good at, maybe not force him into anything, but also get him to at least, try to do like a little helping of stuff. And it's very interesting because then you don't really know what you're good at. And sometimes it really takes that other person to really help you kind of ease it out. And maybe over time you kind of discover something that you're good at. And by all means, I think that's one way to do it. But like my life consisted mainly of school, school and home and school, you know. And so like obviously in school, you get selected for your sciences and all that stuff. And so I think I kind of went through life without really getting like walk through like what it means to learn about yourself. I felt like it was mainly just a like, oh, you need to find something you're passionate for, or you need to find something you love to do. And like kind of the go-to response was just do as much as you can. And it's like, well, that's not really helpful, you know. Like I'd appreciate a little bit more guidance, a little bit more direction. But so, you know, I just kind of continued through life. After high school, kind of went to college because it was the next thing to do. It was the right thing to do. You know, neither of my parents graduated from college. And so it just felt like the right thing to do. And, you know, my parents would tell me, like, ever since I was a kid, that I wanted to be a doctor and a soldier. So I kind of started pursuing those two routes because I was like, hey, dude, I said I wanted it when I was 3. What could possibly change?
Nothing.
And yeah, absolutely nothing. And so I got into ROTC in undergrad, did that, and then now I'm in medical school at like the university for military members. So I'm gonna be like a military like physician, which is super interesting, super cool. But definitely went through the pipeline. You know what I mean? I did the traditional route, which I don't know if I recommend it for anybody, dude. I think it really depends on who you are. And I think for me, I was so caught up in doing the next thing, ticking the next box, just doing things that I needed to do, right? And it got to the point that I made it here to medical school, and I was like, yikes, dude. What now? Like, what happens now? You know, oh, I'm just gonna, you know, be in school and do 4 years of medical school and then another 4 years of residency and start my full grown adult job when I'm 29. And I was like, man, I was like, that seems like a long time now, like a long time from now, right? And so this whole time, I just kind of did like the next thing. What was the next thing that was going to get me? You know what I mean? Like undergrad was a very meticulously crafted, intense 4 years because I had to graduate in 4 years from my scholarship. And then I also had to, you know, get X amount of volunteer service hours, you know, get X amount of community service hours, also clinical experience hours, and, you know, all the other stuff that comes along with getting into medical school. And then school, obviously, like I had to have time for school, right? But I very rarely found things that, you know, were like creative outlets. Creative outlets. And I thought that was a very interesting. So in the last couple of days, I was kind of like, dude, I'm gonna go into this. I'm gonna go into this and see what happens. So I took a personality test. So I did the Big 5.
Okay.
And I can tell you those results actually, because I thought it was really interesting, especially from kind of all the things that I've been doing. And one score that I will kind of argue with was my conscientious score. And I just feel like I've been a little like in between habits. So I've been kind of lazy. And so it's
weird times.
Yeah, I felt like that was a score that was a little bit skewed. Maybe not like, okay, anyway, I'm just gonna tell you what it is. So for my first one was agreeableness. So are you familiar with the Big 5?
Yeah. But for the people that are watching that might not be, you want to let them know what it is?
Absolutely. So the Big 5 is kind of a personality like trait kind of dimension. So there's 5 major dimensions. So there's agreeableness, which is made up of compassion and politeness. And then there's conscientiousness, which is made up of industriousness and orderliness.
Okay.
Then we got extroversion, which is made up of enthusiasm, assertiveness. We got neuroticism, which is made up of withdrawal and volatility. Volatility.
Mm-hmm.
And then openness to experience, and that's intellect and openness. And so I was really shocked by this, dude. I'm not gonna lie. So my agreeableness was high. I was in the 82nd percentile.
Okay.
And then compassion was high. It was at 81st, and then politeness was at 76. And then my conscientiousness was very low.
Ooh.
Dude, I was at a 10%, like
Wow.
10 percentile. Yeah, and then industriousness was very low, which was 8, and then my orderliness was 20.
Interesting.
So
So what
pretty
does that
low
all mean?
too. So so for conscientiousness, it's like um, basically you can kind of consider it like your productivity. Like if
Okay.
so, my dad in particular, he always felt wrong sitting down and
Mm-hmm.
chilling, unless he was watching a movie. That was the only time like he allowed himself to be sitting down and chilling. Otherwise, he was up, he was mowing the lawn, he was working, he was
Mm-hmm.
doing this, he was painting the wall, he was changing a light bulb, he was doing all that stuff. That's kind of what conscientiousness means to me. Like obviously, I can give you a definition, but
Yeah.
it's just kind of like always finding something to take up your time and
Okay.
not really just like chilling out and doing whatever. And then
Mm-hmm.
that's industriousness, right? So you're just industrial, you're just trying to do stuff to keep you busy.
Yep.
Orderliness is really like, how long does it take for you to really clean your room? Like how messy does it have to get? And for
Before you
me,
do it,
yeah, for me, it's
you
like
never.
there's no limit. You know, like I will go until it is absolutely necessary, and then maybe even wait a little bit longer after that because it's just not really important, or it's never been important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but and to go back to agreeableness, that just basically is like how conflict avoidant are you, and
Okay.
that's kind of like the best way to really think about it. So
Mm-hmm.
like you care about others, you're really big about putting others' needs before yourself. Um, so you don't really like conflict, but then that has a drawback. So you get taken advantage of all the time because you can't bargain for
Yep.
yourself. You're
You
not
can't say
like
no
you
or
don't
whatever.
really, yeah, you don't really advocate for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that. And then extroversion, moderately low, which makes sense. I'm
Yeah, I can see that.
not a big people person. So I was at the 25th percentile, and then for enthusiasm, I was at like 41. So that not too bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then assertiveness was pretty low. I was at 18, not very assertive, which is weird because I'm in the military and I'm supposed to
Yeah.
be, But
I feel like you
like,
can be though when you need to be. It's like
yeah, and
maybe I don't know generically in a generic situation you more
yeah,
passive, which I could see. But you could definitely be assertive when you need to be.
yeah,
You got your military voice.
yeah. I do. I have it, and I just don't like busting it out for any
For
reason
anything. Yeah.
other if it's like some private that I need to really talk to about or something. But even then, yeah, it's just
It's just not
not
your style.
really. Yeah, dude, it makes me start sweating, and then like sometimes I feel bad because like I'm just I stumble over my words and no need to go and
Mm-hmm.
then any further. So neuroticism. So yeah, so enthusiasm was fine, assertiveness was good, and then neuroticism. So I was about average on here, which I felt was about normal. I was at 56.
Okay.
And I think it kind of makes sense because I'm definitely
Hope you're cutting
a
out there.
little bit anxious, a little bit sad. That's kind of what neuroticism typically means.
Uh huh.
Oh, in my bad. So
There you go.
neuroticism, a little bit sad, a little bit like anxious, especially if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing or what you feel is right.
Yep.
So you have a lot of like internal angst. I think is the really best way to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
My withdrawal was pretty high though. I was at 76 for withdrawal, which makes sense because
Yeah.
I'm like a brown recluse, dude. I just want to chill at home. Volatility was moderately low, which I think is fairly accurate because I'm not very. I feel like I'm not very easy to piss off, but
Mm-hmm.
hey, you might be. You just see different parts of me, so I think like with you,
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more
No,
open
no.
to
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
sharing, and it also depends on the situation, of
Yeah.
course. But typically,
Yeah, I would
I'm
say
very
pretty
stable in
level-headed.
emotions, and I'm pretty chill. Usually, it takes a lot to really piss me off, or just Yeah, just very specific ways to irk me. And then openness to experience was my highest with 89 percentile.
Mm-hmm.
And then my intellect was very high, which is not IQ. I took an IQ test too, and I was fucking average. So we're just gonna leave that there. All right. And then openness was high at 84. So the thing that shook me was my conscientiousness, man. Like,
yeah.
I always imagine, like, because being in the military and then being a medical student, both are things that are very high in conscientiousness that are kind of needed for it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why I was thinking of my conscientiousness was kind of low, is because I've been going through this weird kind of phase in my life where I'm trying to stay on a schedule, but coronavirus has kind of destroyed like all ideas of what I had to schedule.
Yeah.
Go through like this phase where I'll be doing good for like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and then suddenly I just have like a bad weekend and it's gone.
Done.
You know what I mean? It
Yep.
just messes me up. So then I feel like I'm starting up from scratch again, and I'm trying to keep going and keep going. But one of the things, so that was usually my biggest problem, is like I would have an issue with that kind of that activation energy, and I knew it. And to tie it back to something as to like, I did this because like I've done the Myers-Briggs before.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like it told me, I feel like that one's a little bit harder to kind of comprehend. This one was really nice. I think the one that Jordan Peterson has, like,
oh yeah,
it's like, it was like $9, $7, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was pretty good because it seemed pretty. It had a really good explanation of everything, and I thought that was pretty good. But so my biggest thing was like just starting to do something.
Mm-hmm.
That would be like one of the hardest things. So in my mind, I'd be like, all right, I need to do it, but then I wouldn't want to do it. And I know we kind of talked about this a couple of days ago, but I think last night we had the conversation last night. But anyways,
we have a lot of conversations.
Yeah, we have a lot, and I was just really trying to figure out what prevented me from doing the things that I knew I needed to do, and two, would usually be beneficial to me in one way or another. Yeah. And yet I would pick the scroll through my phone, because although I don't have social media, which is good, I do scroll through Google News. Definitely, like, just takes my time. And I don't even get anything from it. If anything, I get anxious because I just look at all the crazy shit that people do.
Yeah.
And then moving, and then that's one way I kind of spend the time. And so I was trying to figure out like what would be a good kind of, what would help me out with that. Like I don't even know how to put it into words, like much less like really ask somebody to be able to help me with that. So I kind of kept that in mind as I was going through this experience of like the last couple of days, because we decided we were going to do this on Saturday, right?
Yep.
So Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, I kind of spent a lot of time really reflecting on, what I was doing. And I think like I might mention his name more than once, but Jordan Peterson, he has a really good concept of, watching yourself. Yeah. And he has a really good concept of just watching yourself like you're a stranger.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting. So I started writing in my journal as if I was a stranger. And I thought that was really interesting. And I call him a he, even though the he is me. I thought that was interesting. And it felt kind of strange at first, but then I was like, okay, I'm actually being able to see a difference between, I guess, my awareness and like who I consider kind of the whole being to be.
Yep.
And for me, the part that really got me, like, I was just talking to Shadid about this today, and it was this idea of, are you willing to sacrifice the person for who you can become for the person who you are now? And framing that so that the actions that I don't want to do throughout the day, like that's the thought that comes into my mind, or the action that I'm thinking about doing. Maybe I'm just thinking about, being a a piece of crap, just sitting on my beanbag and, not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, or, maybe it's going out drinking or something, like I would do back in college, and all these things that I knew very particularly are just straight like detriment to everything that I'm wanting to do and everything that I'm wanting to be. But nothing really would ever stick in my mind. Like, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but hey, whatever, YOLO, you only live once, right? Whatever, it doesn't matter, right?
Yep.
But when I think about it like that, I'm just like, dude, I don't know. It just hit me way differently because, I've had this mindset about, the future, being your best person and doing all these things. And when you think about like your life really comes down to, the moments that you spend in a 24-hour period, right? It's like, I feel like I've always had these big lofty goals, but then the things that I'm doing in my 24 hours are not
Don't reflect that.
Yeah, don't reflect that trajectory. You know what I mean? And it's because it's a game played over time, right? It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And so me really thinking about it that way, I think really started to hit me way differently. And there was another concept of by you avoiding any responsibility, you actually begin to propagate like evil in the world through your inaction. And like I said, I mean, I've been learning a lot about just the terrible things that humans are capable of, and seeing that could be me, like I could be doing those things. I could be, and so I've taken the time to really like reflect on my past, like on my past 22 years, almost 23, 22 years, and seeing how much evil I've done, which is really hard to like truly look at your life and most of the time I know when I've done wrong. I've known when I've done wrong until I've gone back and revisited it, and I've really thought about it, and I just feel it. I feel that that moment, and it sucks. It hurts. Like, you feel all the emotions, you feel all the pain, and it's rough. But you have to come to accept the fact that we're capable of doing a lot of terrible things, and that's another important concept. And this is why I really like the quote, or like just the concept of Jordan Peterson's, that he it's not from Jordan Peterson, it's from a philosopher, but I can't remember the philosopher off the top of my head, but he says that the line between good and evil crosses through every human's heart. So what that kind of means is that each person has the ability to do good or evil, and I think it's important to really, accept and understand, both like dualities of you, how you can do good things and how you can do bad things, and how on a 24-hour basis you can just go by doing this one thing that is edging you towards good, and then this other thing that begins to edge you towards bad, because then it comes to that whole kind of concept of, your decisions just affect where you end up. And if you just end up going slightly off trajectory with just one decision, and then that becomes more decisions, and then 8 months, 12 months later, you find yourself and you're doing things that you never would have imagined you would have been doing. I found myself in cycles like that before. Like, I'm no saint, I'm not going to say I am, but I think that has been an important part, because oh man, when you read like some of the things that humans have done, especially in the last century, like in the 20th century, 19th century, I guess. And anyway, like, mid to late 1900s, that a lot of bad things happened during that time, man. And taking the time to go back through and, truly visualizing and seeing yourself as not just the people that, were victimized, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
just those people, but also the perpetrator. And I think that's something that's, damn, dude, like you don't ever want to think of yourself as being capable of doing that evil, but judging from what I've seen in my past, I'm capable of doing that evil, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
capable of doing it again, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's my responsibility, because I can't really talk to anybody else. You kind of have to accept this, you know, evil, like evil power that you have, and truly just try to take it forward. And so um, that's why sacrificing the person that you will become for the person that you are, I don't like that at all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that at all, because it hurts. It hurts when I think about it, because I have all these ideas of helping as much people as possible and trying to do what I can for, the people that don't have an opportunity like what I've had.
Uh-huh.
And when I'm doing, whatever it may be, and I'm not, working on that future me,
Mm-hmm.
that future person, like it, it, I can't really get behind anything that does that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I think, doing this exercise, and I've also found out that I'm supposed to have a lot of creative outlets, considering I'm supposed to be really creative.
Here's a new one
And
for
I
you.
thought, dude, yeah, I was like, wow, man. I was like, am I really that creative? But that's something that I've also been trying to get better at. Like I've been trying to read some poetry, and also watercolor, and do cool stuff like that. And I think
Mm-hmm.
um but one of the yeah but anyways, I'm a kind of, let me just take a minute to really think about everything that I've said already.
Mm-hmm. So
um
you touched on a lot of
but
topics. Um, and I purposely left that question kind of open ended. How do you learn about yourself is a very broad question, and I wanted to see what where you took it, because the way you interpret it wouldn't be how I interpret it, which is again kind of why we're here, because we process things differently and we learn from each other, right? You kind of gave us that background of kind of yourself growing up, and then kind of some of the stuff that you're experiencing now and how that's helping you in your process of learning more about yourself. The question that I'll turn over to you in a bit is, for me, I really struggled answering this question um, since we came up with the topic on Saturday. Uh, because as I reflected, I was like, I don't know how long I've consciously tried to learn about myself, right? Because as we go through life, we all learn about ourselves. We learn to pick what our favorite color is, right? We learn what our favorite sport is. We learn, you know, what makes us feel good, what makes us mad, what can make us sad, all those emotions. And then you learn things here and there that kind of start to define who you are, right? Because those are inherently just taught to yourself through experiences and um, whatever other ways as well. Um, but then the more I thought about it, was like, I wouldn't say I've consciously tried to learn more about myself very often. You know what I mean? Like, I think the last 4 months, starting with our reading challenge that we had back at the end of December, and going into the new year, kind of propelled us both a little bit more forward into kind of that introspective thinking, and just kind of dissecting our own lives and dissecting who we are as a person, like wholeheartedly and really down to our soul, like trying to see what you can find, and what kind of things rose from that. And I would say I've learned a lot. But like, I always go back to the more you learn, the less you know. And it definitely feels that way where it's like the more I start learning about myself, the more I realize I don't know nearly enough about myself as I wish I would. So it's something that I've definitely tried to give more of a priority to going forward, and especially this week. Just kind of thinking, how would I go and learn about myself? And recently it's been through, reading different books, reading different articles, watching different videos, having these type of conversations with people where, you kind of put your thoughts out into words, and it kind of helps you formulate a thought, and an identity almost, and give meaning to something that you have, inside of you that you don't really know what it is until you speak about it, you write about it or you hear about it. Sometimes when, we both have moments when we're talking and then one of us says something, you're like, yes, that's exactly what I've been feeling, but I had no idea how to express that. So I think that's pretty important as well to point in this whole learning about yourself process. But yeah, I would say the only other times throughout my life where I really consciously try to learn about myself, I would say is in times of crisis, where I've been forced to have to learn about myself. You're just kind of stuck in that moment. It's like, well, if I don't learn how to make myself better or get out of this or learn what is going to get me out of this mindset, I'm heading in a bad path. So, we all kind of have that capability, obviously, to learn more about ourselves. And I think it's important for us to do that. I don't think it's something that's encouraged or taught well enough as we go through our early life. That's why now I'm like, well, I wish I would have done this kind of stuff earlier, because I put myself in a better position. But I'm also like, I'm glad I'm discovering this now instead of 20 years down the road where a bunch more damage has been done to myself, to close loved ones or things like that. So while, I wish I would have thought about this sooner, I'm glad I'm learning about it when I am.
Yeah, I think you brought up a really good point. Because much like you, I didn't really take the time to learn a lot about myself. I didn't really like.
Because what does that even mean?
Yeah. Like it's really hard to try to put things, because there's abilities that you might have or qualities that you might have that can't be quantified until you experience the beginning of it. Like, so something happens in life. So maybe like you like step into like a calligraphy class and then you find out that you really like drawing and you're just like, dude, I love this. This is awesome. Why haven't I done this all my life? And, I wish it was that easy for me, but personally, like, I think, hasn't been quite that easy, but I definitely think that's a big thing, because they're just kind of like try things, and that's kind of what we're saying too, is like try things. You know what I mean? It could be, it's all part of the experience, I suppose, but I think just especially in moments of hardship, I think that's one that I want to talk about for just a little bit, because that one made a lot of sense to me, because you have to, especially for me, big relationship breakups. That's the worst one. Or I experienced this with death in a family.
Yep.
That was, especially if it's abrupt, or even if it's long and drawn out, like it just is awful, right? I guess any type of tragedy can kind of really make you think about this, because in a way, your sense of like normal is just different, destroyed. Yep. Like, it's just, especially if it's sudden, it's just like it's gone. Like you didn't even get a chance to sit down. Like you don't even know what like all it means. Like you're your mind literally begins reeling, trying to figure out like, oh my
What
God,
just
like
happened?
what is going on? You know what I mean? And
Yep.
I think that is a big component because you're just trying to put yourself back together, man.
Mm-hmm.
And you're willing to grab like whatever. And for me, I know with my first breakup of like back in sophomore year, you remember that when we first moved in together?
Mm-hmm.
I was just reaching for duct tape, bro. Like I didn't care about like truly getting out of the hole. Like obviously that was important, but I felt like time was needed, right?
Yep.
Because that's what anybody ever said to you. It's like, oh,
Takes time.
it'll get better with time. You'll get better with time. And it's like, dude, it hurts now.
Yeah, it's like, what can I do to
Like,
fix it now?
I can't figure it out now. And then, you know, then that's when you discover alcohol. And you're just like, yeah, just better not feel anything at all, man.
Yeah.
Just do that numbing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I joke about it and I say that now because, you know, I'm on the other side of that experience in my life. And it wasn't the right answer. Like I said, it was duct tape.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Any other insult in the world can come along and just completely tear that duct tape off. You know what I mean? It's not a proper fix. It's like, you know, that Bible passage where the two dudes are building houses and one of them builds his down to the foundation, but takes him longer to build it because he builds it on stone, and then the other guy builds it in the sand. And then when the waters come in, it completely washes the dude in the sand, like the sand house, completely away.
Mm-hmm.
And the dude that built his like place out of stone, even if it took him like 3 times as long as the dude in the sand, like I think it has value, you know. And I really understand that, and I really appreciate that. But I had to go through that myself to really understand it, because I was like, you know, people would try to give me advice and I'd be like, what do they
What do you
know?
know?
You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
what do they know? Like, I'm young, I got lots of energy, I'm unstoppable.
Mm-hmm. Bulletproof.
But oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I just wanted to add those 2 things.
No, for sure. And I think the easiest, at least for me, way to think about this, just to kind of conceptualize that, is just the thought of adversity in like sports, right? Um, at least through my growing up here and being a part of different sports, whether it was football or basketball or whatever, more football in high school, or there was always a talk of overcoming adversity, right? And any sports or hero stories that you hear, it's always like, oh, everything was going fine, and then some adversity hit, then they hit rock bottom, and they had to somehow try to get back up, and then they rose above anything they expected, right? And and that has such a true meaning in just everyday life, right? Like we all face adversity in our lives every day. Some adversity might be bigger or, you know, harder to get through than others, but it's adversity nonetheless. And I think just the power of being exposed to adversity is very important. If you live your life in comfort your entire life, like, you know, as soon as anything happens, you're headed downwards real quick. You know, it's gonna spiral out of control. Um, and that's why a lot of times those people that went through those hardships and were able to come on the other side are the people that are the most successful, because they've mentally fortified their thoughts and their mental processes, to overcome adversity as it comes. I always think about David Goggins when it comes to that. For those of you that haven't read or listened to his book Can't Hurt Me, I highly recommend it. His life is quite the roller coaster. He grew up in a very bad situation, and his whole life was kind of a joke. It's kind of how he explains it. And then eventually he just didn't want to have that victim mentality anymore, and he started to try to callous his mind, to try to be stronger mentally. And that's it's a cliche, and it's so kind of out there type of thought, like, oh, it's just a thought. It's just something that you should do, right? But your mind and your willpower and, your strength to get through hard times, it's all a muscle. Like, like if you don't ever exercise it, it never grows, it never adapts. So you end up like the house in the sand that just get washed away because you have no foundation. And we can think about this when it comes to working out, right? Like, and I've talked to you about this before, we can easily see how working out benefits you because you can see the muscles growing, you can feel it in yourself, you can see the physical changes, right? But when you're fortifying your mentality, you can't see that, right? You can't display that to other people, right? That's a thing between you, yourself, and you. Like only you can know if you're actually getting mentally tougher or not. So I think that's why it's so hard for people to grasp that concept, because they're like, I don't know if I actually am or not. And you probably won't know until the next hardship comes, And then if you handle this better than the last one, it's like, okay, cool. I got a better mentality. And then the more you go, the more you realize in different things. Like for me personally, when I emphasized mental toughness and just resiliency in general in my own behavior, I started to realize how my decision making changed. Whether I was pushing off assignments till later before, and now, maybe I'm not doing them all right away now, but I'm doing a few more, or in the gym, that self-talk of getting yourself through lifts gets better. For me, it's more when I run, because, I'm not the biggest fan of running, as far as it just kind of sucks to run for long distances, but I also love it because it tests my mental fortitude so much. And the fact that I even acknowledge that it's helping with my mental fortitude, that's how I know that I'm getting mentally stronger, because why else would I put myself through that? Or why else would I even think of that? And just little things like that, you start noticing different patterns and behaviors that will help you kind of realize that you're starting to have like a growth mentality of sorts. And you're not going to win every day. You're not going to win every battle against yourself, because no one does. We all have our shortcomings, and we all have things that will make us fall. But you start winning more than you lose, right? Like you start realizing that, oh, I'm winning a few more than I used to, at least. And that kind of sets you in like that snowfall effect, where you just keep going like, oh, well, that made me feel good, let me keep it going, and stuff like that. And then eventually, I would say that's what's led me to my growth mindset in these last 4 months specifically. Just like you realize like, oh, dang, like I liked learning about that. Let me learn some more. Or like, that made me think of something. Let me see exactly what they meant by that, and stuff like that. So I think just that constant positive feedback that you give yourself is what sets you on that course. And that's just all stuff that I've been barely really tapping into in myself, kind of going back to the overall topic of this whole talk of just how do you learn about yourself. It's, at least for me, it's through my experiences, and then through and through dissecting those experiences. Because I don't think if you don't think through what happened, you don't really take away what you should have taken away, or not as much as you can. So just dissecting your own experiences more just is what's helped me kind of learn more about myself.
Yeah. So I have a question for you then. I just kind of noticed, like in a pattern, at least within my own life, that the bigger the shitstorm that I find myself in, so the adversity, whatever you want to call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
As I talk, I'm gonna turn the lights on because it's getting kind of dim in here. As the bigger the shitstorm, the more that I find myself reflecting afterwards because I don't have a choice.
Yep.
Like I need to reflect afterwards, which I think always and just imparts with me a very feeling like I've reflected appropriately. So I guess the question for you is, when do you have a cue of like, okay, I face some adversity, maybe that I should like do some reflection on this? Like how do you kind of like navigate through that? Because I'm kind of curious.
I think for me, especially like recently, we kind of both got into journaling a lot more. And just the fact that you're reflecting every day makes you kind of think of when you should be reflecting. Like I try to write something down at least, every night, kind of reflect on the day. And then if I notice a pattern or notice something that's kind of stuck in my mind, I realize, I should probably kind of dissect that a little bit more. I don't know. You know yourself best. You know yourself when something pushed you and maybe it broke you, and it's your own decision to acknowledge it and be like, I need to explore that, or be like, cool, I'm just gonna move on. That's not fun. I don't want to think about that. And sometimes we're in that emotional state where it's like it's not the best time to think about it. Maybe you had to put it off and think about it later. But I think for me, it's been more of just acknowledging all the events in my day, and then I guess going along that, just whatever's kind of stuck in my head, I kind of feel like I think I should probably dissect this because it's in my head for some reason. So let's see why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a good point and a good distinction. I do like the thing where, because I do have like recurring thoughts that tend to come up into my head, and I think it's very, very intriguing. Just on a completely like unrelated note, it might be related, but we'll see where it takes us. Do you ever get like flashbacks from your childhood or something? Just maybe like you listen to a song, or maybe you're about to do something, and then you just kind of get flashbacks, like maybe you in school, and you just have like a vivid, just re-experiencing of the whole just moment of that particular memory. Do you ever just find yourself doing that? Like you're just standing there, you're doing something, then all of a sudden like you feel like a little like thread of a thought, and then you're like, huh, and then you just like go into the memory, and then like for me it was like 11-year-old Yaid, chubby, in 7th grade in choir class. Like that was my most recent one. It was really vivid, and I felt everything. I felt like the pre-adolescent like heat from like getting really like embarrassed in front of your whole class because like you're like, oh my god, I'm super awkward, I'm super quiet, everybody's looking at me like OMG,
Yeah.
So I was just curious if that happens to you.
Yeah, I definitely have that happen. I would say more often than not, though, it's when it's moments of like embarrassment.
Yeah, dude. Yes.
That's
I
what.
was just hoping that you related to me like that. But all right, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And I don't know why. Like some, like you said, a song, or like your brain just wants to be like, hey, remember that time? And then all of a sudden you start going down that
Yes.
trail of yeah, and then you remember, like I start sweating, like my face gets red, and I'm,
You start doing the same facial expression.
yeah. And then you realize, like, you snap back into it. And I'm like, why am I nervous right now? Like, oh, for sure though, I definitely hit those moments. And that makes me think of Brene Brown's book, like The Power of Vulnerability, and she kind of talks about that, how we associate a lot of emotions with our memories, and if we still feel humiliation or shame um, in a memory, might mean that we haven't worked through something. So and now I'm barely listening to that book, so I still haven't figured it all out. But it's made me more conscious of that, of being like, oh, maybe there is still something there that I haven't realized. So before I just thought maybe my brain likes to mess with me.
Yeah, dude. I think, I was thinking about that too, because then I told Shadid that right away. Because we were, I was like listening to a song, and then it just took me down the trip. At first, it took me to, because I played Shadid this song. I did like in fifth grade, we had to do like a song report, where you like pick an artist or whatever, and you had to like write about their life. And it was like a 1-pager, right? And I thought that was so huge when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And then I did mine over What You Got by Kobe O'Donis and Akon, right? Mainly because I was really big into Akon when I was a kid,
Probably not the thing you should really be into, but
yeah, dude. I don't know, bro. I grew up a very different way, man. But or maybe I grew up like everybody else. And
yeah, who knows? Maybe we'll find out.
Yeah, dude.
Leave it down in the comments. What
you leave it down if. Yeah. Oh God, dude. When you were, what, like fifth grade, 9 years old?
9, 10.
It's like 9.
I don't know.
Yes. Dang, dude. I wasn't even in my double digits yet, and I was listening to that kind of music.
That's what I'm saying.
Damn, isn't that crazy? Ain't that a bitch? All right, but I played her that song, and then I started thinking about me giving the report, and then from there I went into that memory of me being in 7th grade, like pre-adolescent, like super quiet, not very talkative. I was known, like, have you ever seen that one Mexican kid in math class starter pack where it has like a little jacket and then like a notebook and then sits off in the corner with like his hood up? That was basically me in middle school. In middle school, that was literally me. I was like that kid who everybody thought I was good at math, even though I fucking hated it. And it was like, bruh, yeah, it was. Anyways, that's I digress. Right, I was in the memory. I was in choir. I was in the 3rd row, like from the front, so I was towards the back, but I wasn't in the back. And then I was like in the middle right. And then I had to do another song report, and this one I did over Kanye West, "Heartless."
Oh, nice.
You know the song?
That's a solid song.
Yeah, I did. It's a really good song. Good song. And so, like, she was trying to pick music because, like, it's funny because I grew up in Nebraska. The songs that people would bring in was like hard rock songs. So we heard some Metallica, we heard some Guns N' Roses,
we heard AC/DC.
AC/DC. We heard some Paul McCartney. We heard some country, Luke Bryan. All this stuff, right? I mean, I came in with Kanye West, and so she asked me. She's like, "Hey, is there any cuss words in that song?" And I was like, I knew the whole song by heart, right? Because I was a little noob, and it was funny because I would listen to that song because of a relationship that had me kind of messed up. But that was like 7th grader problems. That was the 7th grade. That was
okay.
So that was a little bit closer.
Yeah,
that was from a girl that broke my heart in 5th grade, I think. But anyways, it's not important. It doesn't matter. We're just gonna move past that. And dude, I told her, I was like, "Nah, dude, go for it." But the fact that she singled me out and she called on me when because of the Heartless, everybody around me started laughing, right?
Yeah.
And I got really self-conscious at that point. I was like, dude, why is everybody laughing at me? Like, it's a good song. Yeah. But at that point I was like, oh, it's not cool. It must not be cool. You know what I mean? Like, and so I felt that legit. I was like, I was, dude, it was fucking crazy, man. But I thought it's a really good song. If anything, I like to throw it back to that because that was probably like some of my favorite Kanye. But I think, yeah, man, I think I have a lot of those because I do know like my memories come back to me a lot, especially like the embarrassing ones. And I think I do have like a lot of like Maybe repressed feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Because that would make a lot of sense, man. What I'm curious is how I go about dealing with it. Because like I get them, and I usually like talk to myself, and I say,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it sucks that you feel that way. But it's okay now, and like this is where you're at now, this is what you're doing, like all this stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, sometimes it makes it go away, like talking to Shadid about it and acknowledging that I had no reason to be
Mm-hmm.
embarrassed made that one a lot better. I
Yep.
definitely think so. But I know there's a whole lot more. My brain just likes to keep them on shuffle play, so I'm just like chilling in the shower, and then it's just like, bah, you thought it was gone. It's like, oh, not right now, I'm vulnerable.
Yeah, bro, I got a couple. I also like one that I also remember a lot of memories like being nervous, like before races, like in track. That's something that I can always think back to. Um, and then all of a sudden, like I start getting like a pit in my stomach, like I start sweating, like my heart starts beating, and then I like come back and I'm like, what am I doing? Like I'm sitting on the couch, like why am I nervous? But yeah, because I get nervous pretty easily, like when it comes to like speaking in front of people or stuff like that. And whenever I know that something's going on, those memories come back, and then I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna go awful.
Yeah.
um,
Oh yeah, dude. One of the biggest ones that. Sorry, I don't mean to interject
oh
your
no,
thought.
you're good.
It's gonna be a quick one. Um,
It's gonna happen a lot, folks.
whenever
We'll interject a
when
lot.
yeah, absolutely. Whenever I would do the SLB chant.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mm,
yeah. So
six.
whenever I'm getting ready to go do that, right?
Yeah.
I start getting that feeling in my stomach, and it's crazy how well I can play it out in my mind, because like I just think about me doing that chant
Yeah.
immediately, bro. Like the shit in my stomach just like goes up into my chest, and like I feel all this energy, like my fingers start shaking,
Mm-hmm.
like my hands start shaking, and I'm just like, oh shit. It's like I
Like
gotta
you're
perform, you know
bracing.
what I mean? I gotta perform. Yeah, like I'm bracing myself for it. And then I'm like, dude, I'm like literally in the metro right now. What are you doing? Like, what? This is not the time. But like every time, and I always knew, because after Jose left,
Yeah.
I was the dude that would do the chants. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because I was the loudest dude. And the one time we let Ahmed do it, he let us down.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. And so I always took that so seriously.
Yeah.
And so I would like use like every ounce of
Of your
like,
being.
I don't know, my spirit into just shouting. And
2 letters.
I mean, it usually destroyed my throat, and I only had like three of them in the tank, and then that was it. But that's one that has me very vividly to that, because I do remember like getting really nervous for races,
Mm-hmm.
but I always had this kind of attitude of like, fuck it.
It's like
You
I
know what I
suck
mean?
anyways. So what am I
I
nervous
mean,
for?
yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. You know, it was mainly like try to beat at least one person in your heat. That was
Yeah.
kind of the mentality that I had.
Don't
You
be
know, I didn't really
last.
have like a don't be last. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, so I didn't really get nervous for that, and then for public speaking, which I thought was interesting. I never got me nervous, man. I've public speaking, I feel like I get the energy, but I don't get memories.
Yeah.
That was one thing that I thought was really interesting, because I don't really get those memories. I'm usually pretty good about just hopping up there. And like I've talked to this with my success coach,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very interesting phenomenon, because I feel like I can kind of just switch that on. Like I have a mode, where I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, speaking Gaid. I have
Yeah.
a different voice. My voice gets deeper. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'll just start talking, and it's a lot more. I also start using my hands, and it's That's not what I was doing at all. But hey, it works. It works. Yeah. So definitely interesting.
Yeah. For me, I think most people, I think you can tell when I'm nervous, but most people can't tell when I'm nervous, like especially speaking in front of people. Um, like I'll be like, afterwards, I was like, yeah, I was so nervous, and they're like, what? Like, you even stutter or you didn't like trip up or anything? It's like, nah, I was dying on the inside. Uh, um, so I think I have a
Yeah.
good physical showing. It's just, you know, I'm falling apart inside. But
Yeah.
um,
I usually pick it up in your voice.
yeah,
Your voice is the thing that tells it for me. Because I know how you sound, and I know how you sound when you're like really, really confident, and then
when
I
I'm
know how you
not,
sound when you're nervous. Yeah, I know,
yeah.
because I know you just like spent like 20 minutes in the back before that speech, like writing it down on a piece of paper. Because you always wait till the last minute. You're like, bro,
Yeah,
I just like to be in the moment, bro.
yeah. That's turns from
Yeah.
me. I'm just lazy and didn't want to do it before. um, but yeah, that is fun. See, that's where you're learning about yourself, and
Mhm.
reaching back to our overall theme of this episode of just learning about yourself is just through things like
Yeah.
that. That's why I think reflection is so important because
Yeah.
you
Structured
like we
reflections.
said, experiences is what drives your decision making. I say so. Um, the more you can reflect on it and learn from it, the more you can learn about yourself and who you are.
Yeah.
I think one thing that and I don't know if we're almost done with this episode. We're just kind of going until we feel fulfilled, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
I think one cool thing that we should add here is just maybe exercises or things um that we do personally to leave the people with as far as if they want to try to learn more about themselves. I think through these videos we want to educate ourselves more, but we also want to help others along. We want to help as many people
Mhm.
as we can as we go. It's kind of our whole mission. Kind of hold that whole people building while we're building ourselves. So I'll let you start with kind of some strategies that you think you would recommend for people if they're just now starting off, want to start kind of learning more about themselves. Where would you tell them to start?
I think that's a really good question. But um, so I can really only tell you the things that I know. However, the biggest thing that you can do is structure in like a reflective practice, a
Mm-hmm.
reflective something. Whether it's um, so I have like I'm gonna go with three major kind of things that I'm gonna say with this.
Okay.
So structure like a reflective time, and like maybe it's at the end of the day, maybe it's before the day starts,
Mm-hmm. Maybe
but
it's
like set a
both.
moment. Yeah, maybe it's fun, maybe you got to do it twice, maybe you just really like talking about and get a journal. The thing with me, right, is
You're kind of
I
cutting
was
out a little
always
bit.
kind of like, who journals? Oh, my bad. Is that better now?
Yeah, I think
A
you're
little
good.
bit better? Still no?
Oh
All
no, your
right,
audio is
cool.
better. Yeah, you're good.
Okay. All right. But
Your
anyways,
hotspots are
I
giving out.
yeah, bro,
There you go. Caught up
it's
finally.
not keeping up.
Yeah, you're
It's
good.
not keeping up, bro. So the biggest thing that I would always find an excuse for is like, I hate writing, and why have a journal? Like I would just forget to write in it, blah blah blah. And so I started buying really fancy pens, and I was like, holy shit, this pen is so beautiful. It almost seems a shame not to write with this dude. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And so that's kind of been working for me, just getting really nice pens so that like the whole process is actually genuinely enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
And then really customizing like your planner to really be about you. Because I think the biggest thing that I had to get over for my like journaling was that I would always expect it to just come out in pure ultimate beautiful perfection.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what if somebody reads it? You know what I mean? And that was like my biggest concern. I was like a little kid, I was like, dude, what if they know my secrets? You know, like what are they gonna do? Like, do you imagine they know my whole life? And what I came to realize is probably like a pretty abrupt like realization, but nobody cares about you. Nobody truly like they care about you to a certain extent while you have something that they need, or you have like a mutual relationship, whatever, blah blah blah. But like in reality, like most people are pretty concerned with themselves.
Yep.
And I think that's fair, and I think that's important. And like, no, not trying to hurt people's feelings, blah blah blah. This was like a realization to me, and that the people around you, because I always felt like I would get judged. You know what I mean? Just constantly. I just felt like whenever I walked into a room, and if my stuff wasn't in impeccable order, I was gonna get judged. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My mom always told me, like, care what people think. Make sure your shoes are clean, especially your shoes. Make sure your shoes are clean. Like that was a big thing with my mom. You know, make sure you have like one good pair of jeans, a good pair of outfit or something that you can wear, usually brand new, because my mom was ridiculous with her, you know, her spending. But it definitely made it so that whenever I went into anything, I didn't even want to volunteer in class. I didn't want to raise my hand because I was like, if I ask a question, I'm gonna seem stupid.
Yep.
Or if I answer this question, I'm gonna seem like I'm trying too hard. You know, and in reality, like there may be like a handful of people around you that maybe think like that, but in reality, this is not really important. It's not. I wouldn't say don't take it to heart, because I took it to heart. You know what I mean? I think it's a realization you have to go through. But if you ask me, you know, just put your feelings down on paper. You know what I mean? And it helps a lot. And if anything, I think you might be able to relate to this too. Is like when you take it out of here and put it down on paper, it's gone. It like dips out, and it just leaves like that nice like file in the filing cabinet kind of tab, so you can pull it back out when you need it, but not it just, you know, slides in from behind you and then just like takes you down with like a vivid memory of you looking like a fool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, with your pants on the ground. Yep.
So yeah. And so I think that was the biggest thing that I felt like I had to overcome. Just be willing to put stuff down. And if somebody reads it and they betray your trust, like, yeah, you know, it sucks, man. But ideally, don't leave it so that anybody can read it too. But I think that's the biggest part. But also for the people that don't just like writing, I know Adani, one of our bros from Miami, he does voice memos now.
Yeah.
And he also did like typing, like a typing journal. And it's interesting because he'll actually like print off at the end of the year and keep it in a binder. And so he'll like reread through it like every now and again. And I think that's really interesting. Like he has like a whole binder set up, and he'll print off like 200, 300 pages of a yearly journal. Like this dude literally, and we're talking about like quarter of an inch margins, single spaced, 12-point font,
a
like
9-point font, you know.
Oh yeah, probably even smaller, dude. And he's like, like I can hear him right now. My memory just vigorously tapping his iPad, like, because that's how hard he types.
Yep.
But that's worked for him. So I feel like it could work, and also just talking to people, man, because you can. One of the things that, you know, I was listening to Jordan Peterson today, and he was talking about just how people think in general.
Yep.
And people need to think out loud, especially if they don't have other people to really think out loud with, because you never really get taught how to think. It is just something that you kind of pick up, and it's very goal oriented, because that's what school is like. It's like, okay, well, you need to find what X equals in this equation, or you need to find the answer to this reading question, or you need to talk about the conjunctives or the past present tense of whatever language, you know, and it's all very like goal oriented, but like, you know, you don't really get instructed on watching your thoughts go by. Like they're, you know, just fishies, like you're fishing, but you're not really catching anything. You're just kind of there for the experience. And You just kind of come in and then they're going, and you're not like getting too into it, too out of it. Or maybe you just hop on a thought and then you go from a thought down a thought down a thought, and it just like continues off into space. And then by the end of it, you don't even know where you're at. You're just like, wow, okay, crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why talking to somebody, I find this very therapeutic for that fact, because it allows me to follow my ideas. Like it's kind of fun seeing where our conversation goes and how we usually try to tie it back, because it's like what I imagined is like the roots of a tree.
Mm-hmm.
So they go everywhere, and then they have like little like dead end points, but then they come back to the main, right? And then they go around a different way and all that stuff. And I think that's super interesting, because that's kind of the way you think.
Mm-hmm.
You go into one, you go down, and then you like dip off into another way, and then like eventually you come back to where you started and with the full circle. But so I definitely think those have been really helpful with that. I think that was the three things I wanted to talk about. So writing journal, getting good pens, and enjoying the process, but mainly just enjoying the process in any way, whether it's talking to somebody on the phone, whether it's just talking to like your voice memo, you know. But I think just getting that structure in, man, just getting that time to really, okay, music, just my thoughts, this piece of paper, whatever medium, and really just letting it get down, man, because it's actually beautiful what you might find,
Yep. I agree. I guess some things, and we've talked about these things as we've gone through the entire episode. I think writing is, I think that should be step one, or like some variation of that. I think we can both attest, and I think most people can attest to how much writing has impacted them when it comes to learning more about themselves. I think we both developed a love for writing, or at least expressing our thoughts in some form. I've really started enjoying like recording myself, and it's kind of like the voice memo, but it's just me talking to me. It's like, as crazy as that sounds, that's the little voice in my head. Like that's the one that's trying to get me to think different things. So if I put a face to it and I can acknowledge it, and it's almost as you're having that conversation through yourself, it's kind of surreal. But you can get a lot done through that. I think you can work through a lot of things, and you feel dumb. You feel dumb as hell when you first start, because you're like, why am I talking to myself? Why am I literally talking to myself? But
the logs.
Yeah, but I think it's very beneficial. Another thing that's helped me learn, like you said, talking. I think just talking to other people is a very powerful tool. That's why I'm very grateful for these talks with you, and our audience that's going to join us here. Hopefully in the comments and stuff, like talking to us. I'm excited to see those and just continuing conversations, because, like you said, sometimes you got to get the thoughts out of your head and somewhere else. Put them on that flash drive so you can access them when you need to, but they're not just taking up your entire desktop and they can't see anything. Like those people that have a bunch of tabs open the entire time, and it makes their computer run slower because they have so many things open. That's your brain, bro. That's your brain. So if you can jot stuff down and close a tab, the smoother that you can run through things. So I encourage you to find someone, someone, a group of people, us, I don't care, like we'll talk to you. We love these conversations, so we're always down for a good old life talks, and have these conversations, challenge each other's thoughts, share the stuff that you're learning about. Like, I'll get multiple texts throughout the week about like, hey, have you seen this video yet? Or like, hey, have you listened to the song before? Or like, hey, I think you should check this out. And then I send them the same. It's like, hey, you should probably look this up or whatever. Or like, hey, read this book, or here's a little poem or something, because that's how you learn, There's so much information out there for one person to find everything. So if you can tag team it with someone, it's still impossible challenge, but it makes it a little easier. So I definitely encourage you to find someone that you trust to build that connection with, and help each other grow. Because I think it kind of also helps you stay accountable, and it helps remind you why you're doing it, stuff like that. And then, lastly, I would say just reflect. Like back to, even if it's not writing down, just reflect. Like what I do is at 9 p.m. I always like to sit out here on the balcony and just either listen to an audiobook or just put on some instrumental music and just kind of stare out into the sky and just think. Allow yourself to think. I don't think we give ourselves enough time throughout our days or our lifetime to just think, and see where our mind goes. So give yourself some low stimulus time to just think and be within yourself. I think that inherently also just really helps kind of.
Yeah, dude. So I was also gonna say to you, would you be willing to do a dopamine detox with me?
Ooh, yeah, for sure.
So I'm gonna tell you a lot of things that have been on my mind. So dopamine detox has been one of them, but also silence retreat.
Ooh, yes.
Doing like silence for like, I want to say a whole day, but yo, that's 24 hours with
Zero
fucking
sound.
zip nothing. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm like, hey, man, let's try out with like 4 hours first.
Don't they have like those
Let's work our
chambers
way
that
up
you
to
can like go into? It's like kind of like it's like water submersion or something where you could just like you
yeah.
just lose track of everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like those like water immersion tanks
Yeah,
or
something like
whatever,
that.
where
Yeah,
it's like you're just floating on like bath salts and it completely desensitizes you to like everything.
yeah.
And
Like
so
that'd be
you're
wild.
just I think that'd be really cool to do.
Oh, for
And
sure.
hopefully I can find somewhere where like that's doable. But
Yeah.
I think silent retreats is as much as we could do right now with the current circumstances. But
Yeah.
I think those are two things that I think would be really interesting to do, just to see what kind of thoughts you have. You know what I mean? And to see how hard it is, because I know I have a propensity to go towards like Google News. Like I said, man,
Yep.
Google News always has me, or my email, or my group me. Like I'm always checking it, and it's funny because I don't even respond to things. I just
Yeah,
like
just
looking
like
at
to know.
it. Yeah, I just like to be like, oh, nobody needs me. Okay, cool.
Cool.
And it's like,
Are you sure? All right.
I don't. Yeah, I was like, all right, man. But I think, yeah, man, I think that would be something really interesting for us to kind of try out.
I agree. But yeah, I think this is as good as a place to leave this at, and kind of conclude the first episode. I mean, people don't know, we could go on this for hours, days of just continuing on these topics, but we've given you a lot of information and we've talked a lot about a lot of different things. So we want to give you time to digest things as well. But we're excited to have you guys on this journey. You know, even if it's just one of you, we're happy you're on board, and hopefully we can all help each other grow. We hit on this earlier, but we want to use this as a tool to help ourselves grow, and allow us to expand our thinking and expand our knowledge on stuff. But but also want to bring along as many people as we can. And just we want, like the title of the show, like thought provoking conversations. Like that's all we're having. We're just having a conversation, giving you stuff to think about. We're not telling you that you have to do anything. We're just giving you more things to think about. Maybe it's something you want to try, maybe it's not. But yeah, I think mainly we just want you to start critically thinking about other things. Maybe we'll bring something up that you haven't even thought about before, and you'd like to explore more. We encourage you to go ahead and hit us on the comments or on the Instagram or Facebook page, whatever, and just let us know things that you'd like for us to talk about. and you can respond to the post, and you might be featured on the episode, and we might talk about how other people deal with these things. So that's what we want to know. We want to know how other people are doing things as well, because maybe we'll learn just as much from you guys as we will from ourselves, as much as you guys will learn from us. I know Jordan Peterson also talks about this, and a lot of people talk about this, but he always goes into things like saying there's a high probability this person knows something I don't, so keep that open mind, and we're open-minded, and we want to learn as much as we can. So feel free to engage with us as much as you'd like. We'll do our best to respond and kind of be up to date with that, but we're also students, and we're also going through pandemic, so we'll do our best. But yeah, any final thoughts from you?
Final thoughts. I mean, I think everything's been very well put. I think if anybody has any questions, comments, feedback, feel free to put it down in the comments. We're kind of open to anything, and that's kind of what we're doing this for. Just thought-provoking conversations, just talking.
Mm-hmm. You just want to have conversations. That's it, and it's fun.
Man.
And it's an excuse to talk to each other more.
Yeah, it is. It's an excuse to record it.
Yeah,
we already talked to each other quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an excuse to record it, because I think people might find it interesting, or might think we're dumb. Who knows? But
hey, dude, at least we have the record, dude, and then we can listen to it.
Then we can go back to
think we're done. And we can think we're done, bro.
Yeah. So this whole YouTube thing. So go ahead, like, subscribe, leave a comment if you have any suggestions like we've kind of said. And we'll see you guys again next week, hopefully. We'll see. We got a plan, and we have a planning session on Sunday, so we'll see. But yeah, I think this was fun. Hopefully you guys had some fun. Maybe learned a thing or two, or at least had some new to think about. But that's all I got. Cool. All right. See you guys. See you all later, and go out there and start critically thinking about stuff. I don't know.